In Hindu cosmology, the idea of Lokas is not meant to describe a simple geography of planets stacked above and below the Earth, but a rigorously ordered architecture of existence itself. Each Loka represents a discrete band of reality defined by its vibrational density, its governing intelligence, and the kind of bodies that can function within it. When the Puranas speak of Bhuloka, Swargloka, Tapoloka, and Satyaloka, they are not describing places one can reach by physical travel, but by domains of manifestations that are separated by qualitative thresholds. These thresholds are not walls or gates in the spatial sense. They are energetic conditions. To exist, act, or rule in a loka, a being must be able to sustain the frequency of that domain. This is foundational rule of the system. It explains why ordinary humans cannot operate in high lokas, and why the stories of Rakshasas conquering the lokas are not contradictions, but descriptions of extraordinary breaches of cosmic order. Every loka is governed by a Lokapāla, not merely as a political ruler, but as a stabilizing intelligence. The Lokpal maintains the equilibrium of that realm by preserving its vibrational signature. Indra doesn't rule Swarg as a king rules a city. He functions as the central regulatory node of that frequency band. Similarly, Brahma in Satyaloka or Shiva in Kailasa represents not only a personified deity, but a principle that anchors that planet of existence, that plane of existence, pardon. The presence of a Lokapala ensures that beings whose energetic structure is incompatible with the loka cannot normally enter or remain there. This is why Bhuloka is called Karma Bhumi, the physical plane that allows the widest range of actions precisely because its frequency is coarse and permissive. Higher lokas are restrictive, not generous, because their order must remain stable. When the text describes Rakshasas such as Ravana, Andhaka, or Banasura challenging or overrunning celestial realms, they are not depicting physical invasions carried out by flesh and blood bodies. The gross body, composed of atomic matter, is bound to Bhuloka and cannot survive outside its conditions. What moves across lokas is the subtle and causal complex prana, manas, buddhi, and the karmic blueprint that defines a being's existential momentum. Through extreme tapasya, mantra, and disciplined will, certain beings accumulate and compress pranic energy to such an extent that their vibrational signature could temporarily align with the higher domains. This alignment is not ascent by merit, it is forced reconnaissance. It is forced resonance. In modern terms, it is comparable to driving a system into an unstable but higher energy state without redesigning its internal structure. The key point is that energy, as understood both in modern physics and in Indic metaphysics, is conserved but configurable. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be concentrated, redirected, and transformed. Tapasya functions as an engine of concentration. By reducing all non-necessary dissipation, pleasure, distraction, fear, attachment, a being converts latent potential into a coherent field of power. When the Puranas say an asura grew so powerful that even the gods trembled, the power is not moral authority or brute strength, it is coherence of energy. A highly coherent field can intrude into adjacent domains just as sufficiently intense electromagnetic field can induce currents in another system without physical contact. Conflict between beings of different lokas, therefore, doesn't occur as combat between solid bodies, but as interference between energy structures. Two coherent fields overlap, destabilize one another, and attempt to impose their own order. Victory does not go to the one with more raw energy, but to those whose structure remains stable under stress. This is why Rakshasas could sometimes overpower the Lokapālas themselves, yet never permanently. Their power was often vast, but internally turbulent, driven by desire for domination rather than alignment with the sustaining principle of the Loka. The Lokapala, by contrast, represents the equilibrium of that realm. When defeated, the realm itself becomes unstable, necessitating divine intervention to restore order. This is why conquest of a Loka is always temporary. To rule one realm sustainably, a being must not only enter its frequency but embody it. Swarga cannot be ruled by hatred, Tapaloka cannot be governed by ambition. Satyaloka cannot be stabilized by ego. Rakshasas could force entry through concentrated tapas, but they could not remain without constant expenditure of energy. Eventually, entropy asserts itself. The invader field decoheres, karmic backlashes accumulate, and the being collapses back into a lower frequency state, death, banishment, or rebirth. This is not punishment in a moral sense, it is a physical law of the metaphysical universe. Understanding this revolves the confusion about Naraka as well. Narakalokas are not part of the stable vertical stack of the 14 lokas. They are corrective sinks below the system, regions where incoherent or destructive energy patterns are broken down through experience or of suffering. Naraka is not ruled in the same sense as Swarga or Patala. It is administered. Souls do not conquer Naraka, nor do they reside there by choice. They pass through it as unstable energy passes through a resistor, shedding destructive charge before re-entering the cycle. This again obeys conservation. Nothing is annihilated, only repossessed. If one applies an atomic energy, the Lokas function with discrete energy shells around a central nucleus of consciousness. Bhuloka is a low energy orbital where matter condenses and free action is possible. Higher Lokas are tighter, more orderly orbitals, requiring greater coherence. Souls are like charged particles whose position depends on their energy state. Tapasya, karma, nana, add or subtract energy, causing transition between shells. Rakshasas who conquered the Lokas were particles forced into higher orbitals through external energy input. The system reacted as physics predicts. Instability followed, and the particle eventually decayed back to a lower state, emitting karmic consequences in the process. At the deepest level, the entire cosmology is a descriptive of consciousness interacting with itself. Lokas are not external territories, they are modes of being. Lokapālas are not guards, but destabilizing principles. Battles are not wars of weapons, but clashes of order and disorder. The human reasons are confined to Bhuloka is not inferiority, but opportunity. Only in the dense, permissive realm can consciousness restructure itself fundamentally. Higher lokas reward or reflect what has been formed. They do not allow redesign. Rakshasas tried to bypass this constraint by forcing, and the myths record both the astonishing reach and the inevitable collapse. Seen this way, Hindu cosmology is internally consistent, energetically rigorous, and strikingly modern. It doesn't violate conservation laws, it anticipates them. It doesn't imagine arbitrary miracles, it describes extreme but lawful manipulations of reality. The lokas are deep, broad, fractal, extending infinitely outward as Brahmandas and inward as microcosms within the human being. To understand them is not to imagine ladders in the sky, but to grasp a universe where power, stability, and consciousness are inseparable, and where no system can be conquered without becoming what it is meant to sustain in the first place.